Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, September 15th, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, we are a family-friendly podcast, but sometimes words do fly. And also, we may show things that might be just a little too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So let's go ahead and get into it for this midweek review. I do want to start off with this, that Pfizer is announcing a timeline for child vaccinations.
Child COVID cases, and tonight here, Dr. Anthony Fauci with a clearer picture of when to expect vaccines for children and if he expects there will be boosters for adults in the U.S. Tonight, the UK now planning to give boosters to adults 50 and over to prepare them for the winter ahead. Here's Stephanie Ramos.
For millions of parents eager to know how soon their younger children could finally get a vaccine, tonight a clearer picture. Pfizer today revealing it will submit data from its trial for 5 to 11-year-olds to the FDA in early October, followed by trial data for children 6 months to 5 years old in the weeks after. Dr. Anthony Fauci expects the FDA to authorize the first shots for elementary-age kids as early as mid-October.
I believe it will work out this way, that by the time we get to the mid-fall, October or so, that we will have the capability of giving vaccines for Pfizer.
We met the Bowie family in New Orleans when all 3 children took part in Pfizer's vaccine trial at Ochsner Health. Both parents are doctors. 6-year-old Ellie, 3-year-old Christian, and 14-month-old Sloan getting shots.
We're not 100% sure that the kids got the vaccine yet. But just knowing that they have a chance and that they have that little extra layer of protection makes me much more at ease with sending them back to school.
Tens of millions of children are back in classrooms, but less than 40% of 12 to 17-year-olds who are eligible for the vaccine are fully vaccinated. In Ohio, cases spiking 2,000% since early August. Hospitals are full.
All of our children's hospitals are overwhelmed.
Across the country, children making up almost 30% of COVID cases last week. And after 2 top scientists who are leaving the FDA argued in The Lancet it was premature to give boosters to the general public because the vaccines offer strong protection against serious disease, Dr. Fauci today pushing back.
You have clearly waning of immunity against infection and clear-cut indication of waning of immunity against severe disease.
And he expects the FDA advisory panel to support boosters when it reviews the data on Friday.
Myself, as a scientist who have seen some of the data, I believe when you look at that data carefully, there's going to be a decision to actually give the boost as opposed to not giving it.
Well, there you hear it, Stephanie. Dr. Fauci predicting the FDA will greenlight boosters in the U.S. And tonight, the UK will now give adults 50 and older booster shots.
Exactly, David. It's part of their winter strategy. Britain will give people a booster shot, those people over the age of 50, starting with older people, healthcare workers, and those with underlying conditions. The government says the primary choice is the Pfizer booster shot, regardless of what vaccine was originally given.
So, good news, actually. We are going to get to the point to where, forgive me for my hair, I know I got a little Don King thing going on, but yes, we are getting to the point to where child vaccinations and older senior citizens getting booster shots looks like it's going to be a possibility. If you listen to Biden, Biden is actually pushing for Halloween, which is not too far off from now. But overall, guys, it's just what we needed. I mean, keep in mind, kids are still going back to school despite the multiple warnings that they shouldn't. But again, parents still believe that, I'm not going to be scared or push or, take my freedoms or any kind of that mess that will send their kids in there and catch COVID and then spread it. So, yes, I am fully for child vaccinations because, again, vaccinations do help despite how you feel, and that eventually it's going to come all to a head anyway. Because remember, Pfizer is the only FDA approved vaccine right now, but Moderna and Johnson & Johnson are not too far off behind. So, again, vaccinations work as they should. But we're gonna follow the story as it goes along. I am hoping that they do get child vaccinations out there because the more we are vaccinated, the sooner we can get back to some sense of normalcy. Keep in mind, I keep saying this all the time. The old way is gone. We will not go back to what we knew as normal. We'll have to go to a new reality of what we consider normal. That's just the way it is. Moving right along, guys. Actually, the Democrats, which again, surprisingly enough, um, are coming together again to introduce a new Voting Rights Act, and I'm not as eager, I guess I should say, about this one, but we'll see what it's about.
It will protect the right to vote, put a stop to partisan gerrymandering, and the scourge of dark money in our politics. Critically, the legislation also incorporates important feedback from election officials and includes new measures to promote greater voter confidence in our elections while stopping partisan election subversion. The fact of the matter is that this legislation is critical for stopping some of the most egregious assaults against voting rights happening at the state level.
Now, that was basically Congress, the Democrats having built a new voting bill called the Freedom to Vote Act. Now, if you're probably wondering what happened to the John Lewis Act and the American Right to Vote Act, well, this is pretty much the compromise they made, just because of one specific Democrat, which I've named multiple times on this podcast. I have sat there and said he is the Republicans' gift, because he still believes in bipartisan support. But yes, that guy, which I'll get to momentarily. Just give me a second, because again, I'm basically gonna be bringing him up anyway. Um, but the whole thing about the voting, guys, again, at this point, I'm not sure how this is not an act by now, because it's basically a reflection of previous voting rights attempts, making the election day a national holiday, so you don't have to worry about working or getting to vote at the same time. Making voting rights accessible to all, which includes mail-in voting or drop-in mail-in voting, things of that nature. Making sure to remove gerrymandering or restrictions that these Republican-led states have turned around and tried to put in and try to give it the cover of election security. Which, keep in mind, there was no election fraud in the last election back in 2016. There was no count election fraud. The very few amounts of election fraud they found were geared toward Republicans. So again, Republicans, and I love how they sit there and say at the end of the article that they're not sure if they're going to garner any Republican support. Let me go ahead and save you the read. It won't. Why? Because Republicans are too busy setting up 2022. That's right, the midterms next year. Their whole goal is to disrupt the Democratic majority. If they can disrupt the Democratic majority, guess what? It becomes a lame duck Congress session where nothing gets done. Because the Republicans, if they were able to get the Senate, roadblock. If they were able to get the House, roadblock. Either way, if they can get one or two of those places at the same time, they would basically set themselves up to be the oppositional wall that Mitch McConnell loves to be so much. But again, I keep saying this. Everybody says this is government overreach. It's not. we should already have these rights in to protect us from voting. And I keep saying this to everybody who thinks differently. If voting did not matter, why are they trying so hard for you to make it harder to vote for yourself? If it didn't matter, especially the fact of California Governor Newsom, which, let me be honest with that guy, he is thankful for voting right now, considering the fact that he was actually able to beat the recall.
Governor Gavin Newsom will keep his job. ABC News making the projections based on exit polls and vote analysis.
Thank you to 40 million Americans, 40 million Californians, and thank you for rejecting this recall.
The stakes of this recall election had national political implications. If Newsom was voted out, the next governor would appoint a new senator should Democrat Dianne Feinstein retire, potentially tipping the balance of power in the chamber.
If Governor Newsom were to lose in very blue California, it would be an enormously troubling sign for Democrats nationwide in the midterms and beyond.
Democrats galvanizing, the party's biggest names campaigning for Newsom.
Having President Biden here, having Vice President Harris here was a big boost for this campaign.
This recall effort was widely seen as a referendum on Newsom's handling of COVID. The governor violated his own restrictions late last year when he was seen dining at one of the country's most expensive restaurants. His opponents pounced, gathering enough signatures to put a recall on the ballot. Newsom's chief political rival, conservative radio host Larry Elder, who campaigned on repealing mask and test mandates, conceding early this morning.
Let's be gracious in defeat. We may have lost the battle, but we are going to win the war.
Newsom telling Elder and other Republicans that democracy is fragile.
Democracy is not a football. You don't throw it around. We may have defeated Trump, but Trumpism is not dead in this country.
This recall election is already on pace to be one of the most expensive to date. California Secretary of State saying that it's cost already nearly $300 million. Mona?
Yes, so Governor Newsom can keep his job. Keep in mind, this was a Republican-led effort because Governor Newsom did actually lock down California, did actually introduce mask mandates, and at the same time, one would call him a hypocrite just because of where he was dining. And yet the Republicans tried this. Now keep in mind, the Republicans had a plan for this. They realized that they could they realized not only could they outseat a state that's been largely Democratic, that again, as they pointed out, the senator could also be replaced, which again could upset the balance in the already razor-thin line Democratic majority in Congress. So, and it's always funny, the guy from Fox News is running against him, and I'm surprised he has not screamed rigged elections. I was waiting on that. Surprisingly enough, hasn't happened yet, but I'm surprised he hasn't said nothing. But the day is young, so we're going to leave it at that. Also, another story I wanted to bring up, guys. Again, this was a story from a long time. Not actually, I want to say 4 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago. Remember these, the video I'm about to show, remember these Philadelphia police that basically stopped the car and pulled a child out, and they tried to do this whole photo op of, oh, well, we said this child that was reported lost when he was with the mother the entire time, and they actually beat down the mother? Yeah, we gotta follow up to that.
Out today after the city of Philadelphia agreed to pay her $2 million, nearly a year after police officers pulled her from her car and beat her.
I will never forget what those officers did to us that night. I hope that the officers responsible will never have the chance to do something like this to another person ever again.
Now, Young's attorneys have set their sights on the National Fraternal Order of Police for posting this photo of an officer holding her son who was in the car with her at the time. The caption above the photo saying the barefoot toddler was found by the officer wandering in a neighborhood during riots that ensued following the death of Walter Wallace Jr., who had recently been shot and killed by police in West Philadelphia.
The NFOP saw Ms. Young's tragedy as an opportunity to reach their 350,000 members and their families by blatantly lying about what happened to Ms. Young's son that night.
The pain of seeing those images of my son in the arms of an officer and that horrible caption written to describe that picture may never heal.
2 police officers have since been fired for their roles in this case. Several others have been disciplined. But Young's attorneys say that is not enough. Today they called on District Attorney Larry Krasner to file criminal charges against the officers involved. Meanwhile, Mayor Jim Kenney had this to say about the settlement.
What happened to her was unconscionable and should never happen to any citizen in the city. And officers involved were being disciplined, and we had to pay up for what it is that happened to her.
Now, the problem is I don't believe it. You look at that mayor's face, it's like, well, it was tragic what happened to her. Shouldn't have happened to anybody. The officers involved are they will be disciplined. No, matter of fact, 2 million. I was when that part came up, I was like, you got 2 million, 2 million, you say, and I'm not trying to scoff at the fact of. I said, imagine number one, multiple police officers send up on your car, pull you out, beat on you, and then take your child, and then try to dress them up as they're the heroes. I'm sorry, but 2 million just ain't gonna cut it. Especially for the simple fact of the matter is just that, again, the 2 officers got fired, but I'm like, wait a minute, 2 officers got fired, and we saw about a good 15 or 20 of them descending upon that car? What about the rest of them? Now, see, that's the thing. And I keep on telling folks, especially those in law enforcement, you're going to have a hard time. Because, again, when is it going to be enough? Because I've been saying this. Officers that speak up against their own kind usually get fired or replaced or let go or reorganized somewhere else. But everybody else seems to keep their jobs. And you guys sit there and tell me that mob of police officers, only 2 of them got fired, the rest of them got disciplined? But again, I say this all the time. Law enforcement can't be sitting there saying, well, why don't y'all help us out? Why? Just so you can do what you want to do to all of us? Because that's the mindset. And no matter how you cut the mustard on that, as a law enforcement officer, that is something you're going to have to deal with. Because even I have sat there and said F the police and still say F the police. Just because the simple fact of the matter is that stuff happens and how quickly it's disregarded when it's a black person. And I do mean quickly. So, good luck, officers, because trust me, and that mayor, who looks like he might not be getting reelected anytime soon. But I did want to talk about Manchin, because Manchin, again, is in the news, not only because of the fact that he's trying to put forward something he believes in, but also some fact that him and Bernie Sanders are beefing. Old man beef.
Plan to pay for their $3.5 trillion human infrastructure package. But as our NBC News Capitol Hill team reports, the real drama just might be in the Senate, where moderates and progressives can't get past the price tag.
So you're not against this. You could support this $3.5 trillion plan.
I cannot support $3.5 trillion.
Okay, so that is all right, now we're getting to Brad. It is not a time issue. It really is a cost issue.
Many of us made a major compromise in going from the $6 trillion bill that we wanted, supported by the overwhelming majority of Democrats, down to 3.5.
NBC News national political reporter Sahil Kapoor is at the Russell Rotunda. Sahil, the Senate's back from its month-long recess, and they're already getting into a bit of a chicken fight over the human cost of this human infrastructure bill. Who's most likely to budge first?
Yeah, there is real tension, Allison, between the various ends of the Democratic caucus, from Bernie Sanders to Joe Manchin. The bill, the overall price tag of the bill can't be a minimum of $3.5 trillion, and it can't also be the case that $3.5 trillion is too much. They're going to have to find a compromise somewhere in between, and the likely scenario is the number falls a little bit below $3.5 trillion. Nobody really knows where it's going to come down because the centrists have not named their price. In the meantime, House Democrats are moving forward with their version of the bill. You see that on the screen right now. They're marking it up in committee. That includes pay-fors, such as an increase in the top marginal tax rate for certain categories of incomes above $400,000 a year to 39.6%. The entire corporate tax rate is going to be replaced with a graduated proposal where the first $400,000 in business income is taxed at a lower rate than it is currently the case, at 18%. Then it goes up to 21% for incomes up to $5 million, and 26.5%, the top corporate tax rate that House Democrats are proposing. This is, again, a draft. It's going to have to go through some changes before it gets to the House, further changes before it can get all 50 Democratic senators to become law.
And Sal, how about Speaker Pelosi's September 27th deadline for the House to pass the $550 billion bipartisan infrastructure bill that already passed in the Senate?
That is still the target, but there is real skepticism among Democrats as to whether it can be ready by then. I mean, this is a massive, massive undertaking to get a multi-trillion-dollar safety net package that would overhaul everything from preschoolers having universal access to pre-K to Medicare recipients getting dental, vision, and hearing benefits added to their slate. So there's a lot to work through here. And the September 27th target is mainly because Speaker Pelosi is committed to centrist Democrats that she will put the Senate-passed infrastructure bill to a vote in the House of Representatives. And in order to be able to do that and get progressives on board, the reconciliation bill is going to have to be in a good enough place for them, or they have threatened to vote it down. So this is quite a balancing act ahead for both Speaker Pelosi and Senator Chuck Schumer, the majority leader.
Sahil, let's talk voting rights. The Senate Democrats are nearing the finish.
Okay, and I just had to cut there just because it was going to go into stuff we already talked about. But it's always funny. Joe Manchin and Bernie Sanders. It's amazing. Bernie Sanders wants to spend more because obviously we need to be spending more because we've ignored America's infrastructure while we're too busy fighting a war. Joe Manchin believes that, we shouldn't be spending this much, and yet somehow expects the Republicans to join him. This is why I say it's always been the Democrats' problem. This has always been the Democrats' problem. That say what you want about Republicans, they stick together and toe the party line when they're told to. But Democrats only come together at the time of elections. When they're trying to keep their jobs or trying to keep a majority or trying to gain a majority, they'll band together. They will, like typical politicians, they will say everything they want to say just to get elected. This is true. But at the same time, I do like Bernie for what he's saying, because Bernie sat there and said it best. We are going to have to spend a lot because a lot was ignored. This is true. Joe Manchin, on the other hand, I'm not going to approve a $3.5 trillion spending bill. That sounds very Republican to me, because keep in mind, they keep on saying, they call them moderate and centrist Democrats. I'm sorry, centrist is center of the road, obviously, but moderate Democrats, that's just Republican light. I mean, granted that the Democratic Party is starting to show more signs of progressiveness, but some of that old guard is still there, and some of that old guard is nothing more than modern-day Republicans. But again, it just goes to show you that Democrats are going to be divided on this. Keep in mind, Democrats with their slim majority can always push things through without Republican help if they all stick together. Do they? No. And you can tell. Just because, I've said it before, Joe Manchin, of all people, has the ability to actually help out and sit there and say, well, I think we can do this. I think it's great. Let's go ahead and do it. And when rubber hits the road, nothing. Not surprised. And I've said this about Joe Manchin. I've repeated him multiple times on my podcast. He is a linchpin in the Democrats' plan, and he is the gift to Republicans. Because don't you think for 1 second Republicans come midterm and are going to sit there and say, well, look what the Democrats did with the slim majority. They didn't do anything. They couldn't even discuss it amongst themselves. Current events would support that. But again, we're going to see what happens with the infrastructure bill and where that goes, because like I said before, that the infrastructure bill is nothing more than almost nearly 30 decades of America being ignored while we were off at war. Hence, humongous price tag. But we'll follow that story as it comes along. The other thing I wanted to point out, guys, is that again, I'm kind of disappointed in this one. That when it comes to our other areas of law enforcement, the FBI, the DEA, the U.S. Marshals, they did announce this today that feds announced new limits on chokeholds and no-knock warrants, but they will not ban them. The Department of Justice did announce as of today new limits on chokeholds and no-knock warrants would be limited but not banned. Under the new policy, they would be prohibited from using those tactics, except, I should say in this case, of chokeholds. They would only be used except to save them from death or serious injury. Which again is a little disturbing if you think about it. So you're telling me only in a life or death situation they can use chokeholds. Okay. That's a loose definition when it comes to law enforcement. Also, it does say the policy limits the use of no-knock entries in connection with the execution of a warrant to situations where an agent has reasonable grounds to believe that knocking and announcing the agent's presence would create an imminent threat of physical violence to the agent and or person. Okay, So let's point this out. So you're saying a no-knock warrant only depends if the agent has reasonable grounds to believe that knocking and announcing the agent's presence would basically set them off. I'm a little concerned because here's the reason why a lot of people are disappointed about this. Both those two things are depending upon the person that's engaging, which in this case will be the law enforcement officer. So, but my thing is, where's the training? Where's the updated training? Where's the signs of mental illness, mental awareness? Where's the signs of de-escalation, negotiation tactics? Where's the signs of yearly or monthly mental evaluations, and possible psychoanalysis? Where is all that requirement? Because the only thing I got out of this was, okay, between the FBI, the DEA, and the marshal's office, you can't chokehold somebody unless they're trying to kill you. We also can't use it. We also can't use it. We can't use a no knock warrant if we think that if we catch them by surprise, we'll keep ourselves safe. Make it make sense, because to me it just sounds like, okay, you guys can still do what you want. You guys can still do what you want, but it's basically your discretion. I will not understand that, because again, that just tells me that the whole fear for my life thing, and obviously, and trust and believe an officer will use that if it comes down to it. That whole fear for my life scenario, that's all it is all over again. I fear for my life, so I choke them out. Or we fear this individual will become hostile if we knock on the door normally. So that's why we kicked it in. That whole train of thought is what got us here. And that's the thing we should be very, very, very concerned about. That's all I'm saying. But again, we'll follow that as it goes along, because that's only with our three other branches of law enforcement. We'll see how it goes as far as the rest of the world is concerned. I did also want to bring up this story as well, and I think I'm all for this now. I'm not a big flyer. I'm not. I actually have a small fear of flying, even though I love fighter jets and things of that nature. But yes, I have a small fear of flying. But this story I find interesting because a lot of people are still flying, especially in this heavy COVID case area. Dr. Anthony Fauci said that he would support a vaccine mandate for travel, which I think is a great idea. Now, why is that? Because I don't know if you guys have been on World Star or YouTube or wherever you see your messed up videos from. There's a lot of people losing their minds with the fact of wearing a mask on a plane, or just getting vaccinated before they get on a plane, and folks just fighting each other on planes. And trust me, with these cases back up and flights are not popping the way they used to be, flight prices will go down again. And I know some people are going to still try to fly during this crazy time. But anyway, going to this though, Dr. Anthony Fauci did say on a podcast that if you are getting on he says it so simply. He says, and I quote, "I support that if you get on a plane and travel with other people, that you should be vaccinated." And so for right now, for all those people who are going to be like, well, I got to be vaccinated before I get on a plane, first and foremost, hold up. There's nothing out there right now that says you have to show vaccination before you get on a plane. You just have to follow quarantine procedures depending on whatever state or country you land in. This is true. I still think it's a great idea if they did it. Why? Because again, you're going to be in a confined area with individuals who are literally and figuratively could be carriers. I have no issue with that. You should be vaccinated, just like the flight attendants. I mean, like I said before, in my previous podcast, a lot of businesses these days are requesting. No, I'm sorry, requesting is such a wrong word. They're issuing mandates for vaccinations, especially if you work in hospitals. If you work in hospitals, private practices, or anything else that you're caring for the elderly or the sick or the maimed or the invalid, you should be vaccinated. You are a healthcare professional. The fact that there are healthcare professionals out there that are saying, "Well, I'm not going to get the vaccine," I don't want you caring for any of my loved ones. I don't. If you don't care about yourself, I don't even imagine the level of care that you would give somebody I care about. But again, when it comes to airplanes and flying, yes, you should be vaccinated. And it's like, well, dude, that's the whole thing with these vaccine cards and vaccine passports. No, because you know why? I don't mean to go on this little rant here, but the simple fact of the matter is, guys, the only reason we are dealing with all of this is because you have a great number of people out there who are exercising their freedoms not to get vaccinated. Which, again, I will stand and say it best. No one's holding a gun to your head to get vaccinated. It never will happen. But I said it before in my previous podcast. The world is moving on without you. The world is getting vaccinated. Businesses are starting to issue vaccine mandates. Thank you for watching me this far. Are going to be issuing mandates for their employers. A lot of places, businesses are going to say we only serve vaccinated, which they can do. They have the right to refuse service to anybody. Works a little bit differently when it goes against you because again, a lot of people are thinking, well, I'm exercising my freedoms and I'm going to push my freedoms upon other people. Doesn't work that way. You can be fully vaccinated at home. You can be fully unvaccinated, but your options are going to be limited. Most businesses may not serve you. Schools may require it, so your kids can't go to school, and you might be able to luck out and find a remote job because a lot of these other jobs are going to be requiring vaccine mandates. So, I mean, you could be homeschooling, working from home, and occasionally go out for food and stuff that you need. But that's it. Why? Because you're living your choice. So is everybody else. So, again, I got nothing against that. The other thing I wanted to point out again, because again, only in Florida, and I'm surprised it's still happening. That guys, remember Ron DeSantis is basically fighting people about the mask policies in schools. Even so much that he is literally threatening to fine government agencies millions for requiring employee vaccinations. I cannot make this up. Keep in mind, there's a government mandate out there right now for all 50 states that if you work for the U.S. government, you are supposed to be vaccinated. Well, Governor DeSantis, or I like to call him Trump's hand puppet, said, quote unquote, on Monday, in an effort to stand up for freedom, the state will be finding any local government that requires their employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19. He's also reiterated his position that vaccines are available for all but mandatory for none, and based on his legislation, SB 2006, that he signed in May, among other things, legislation bans businesses, local governments, and the state from requiring people to prove they've been vaccinated or have recovered from a COVID infection to use their services. That is nuts, because it also sat there and says, if a government agency in Florida forces a vaccine as a condition to employment that violates Florida law, and you will face a $5,000 fine for every single violation. And if you look in places in Alcoa County, like the city of Gainesville, that's millions and millions of dollars of potentially in fines. Here's the problem with this, Governor DeSantis, is the fact that he's going to say a government entity. Well, if a government entity decides to place mandates on its citizens, while a government entity tried to make it official that you do not have to be vaccinated. I'm not calling you a hypocrite, but if T Kettle's black, Teapot, have you met Kettle? That's all I can sit there and say. First and foremost, Ron DeSantis is an idiot. I mean, but then again, he's in Florida, so he got voted in by idiots. But again, the whole idea of fighting so hard, and he's not the only one in Florida. We have these here in Tennessee too, especially in Williamson County, where I show videos of a parent of a Williamson County school board that was voting for mask mandates, and the parents lost their minds. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them. So again, I'm not surprised by the level of stupid that's in this country, but it's always becoming a whole bot beer contest with a lot of them. But anyway, last story I got, guys, before we get to our feel good segment. I did want to cover this one because the Democrats are repeating the same thing, but I'll be surprised if they do it. Which means that they're actually going to be introducing a new tax proposal that's basically going to raise the rate on the wealthy corporations. Now, keep in mind, Democrats are proposing to increase the corporate tax rate to 26.5, which will be up from 21. Well, excuse me. Let me try it again because that's a lot of percentages. So the Democrats are proposing to hike the corporate tax rate up to 26.5%. That is up from 21% from when Trump was in office. Keep in mind, Trump slashed it from 35% to 21% back in 2017, and corporations and rich people thought it was Christmas. So, again, I have been saying this for all people. Again, it's always funny that you see people who make the same as you defend rich people, and it's funny because I've sat there and said this every time. You will never find a rich person argue that they need to keep their money because they need it or because they're rich. You will never see a rich person argue about that. Why? There's too many people that are making $40,000 to $50,000 a year that'll do the arguments for them. Oh, the rich pay enough. No, they don't. They dodge taxes. I mean, even Jeff Bezos, potentially the wealthiest person on earth, he dodges taxes. His company, Amazon, dodges taxes. SpaceX, Elon Musk dodges taxes. I could keep going down this entire list just because they all exist. Hey, that's a nice little rhyme there. But they all dodge taxes. Now I've been saying this. It does need to go back to the not to the 36%. I think they need to jack that thing back up to 38% during the Clinton years. Because again, when the corporate tax rate and the rates on millionaires over 5 million was again the corporate tax rate was 38%. The corporate tax rate on millionaires over 5 million was 21%, and it was an economic boom for the economy because they gave tax breaks to the middle and lower class, and you taxed the upper part. And guess what? We actually had a surplus. Now, a lot of people are wondering, how do we have a surplus when we had a debt? We had a surplus of money. Understand that's different from the national deficit, which again is the money that just keeps climbing up. But again, that's been ballooned up anyway, because again, we were basically off playing war for almost 3 decades. So you guys got to keep that in mind. So with that being also said, of course he's going to have opposition because Republicans and some centrist Democrats alike are going to come in and say, well, we can't do that. It is amazing to me. Republicans, I understand it. For them to be championing small business and all that and all other BS, I expect them to go say corporations are people too. But centrist Democrats? But then I thought about it. Centrist Democrats are just billionaires. Some millionaires, some billionaires. And again, Elizabeth Warren, I'll give her credit to this, that she sat there and said it best, that you never seen a such thing as a broke politician. Especially when you have access to stocks and you have access to certain information that can help you explore your portfolio. Thank you for watching me this far. Your portfolio. And again, she said that's just too much power. But again, when we sit there and talk about taxing the rich and the wealthy people, you see a whole bunch of people. Wait, why do we gotta do that? They've paid their fair share. No, they haven't. They dodged it. But we'll see that goes long as they're trying to introduce this because, like I said, time is running out. Time is running so much out for the Democrats right now because they're so worried about 2022. And you don't think Trump is just trying to bide his time, dodging lawsuits and extending court dates? Because trust me, he needs the presidency more than those people who believe in him need him. Because with the presidency, he can dodge a lot. You're seeing it right now, because without that presidency, it's only a matter of time before one of those cases go to court. And if he's indicted on one, which we all think is going to be coming because they've already indicted his CEO, they've already indicted Trump Organization. So it's only a matter of time for somebody to start saying it. But with that being said, guys, we're going to move on to our feel-good segment because I usually don't know how the frack we got here. We do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes it'll make you lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow is Friday Eve. For a lot of us, it's just us looking forward to the weekend, trying to relax and unwind. And I wanted to find something that, gives a little hope and will inspire us. And I found this one, honestly, about traveling nurses. Now, I've said this before about nurses, doctors, nurse aides, doctors' aides, those that work in hospitals and are healthcare professionals altogether. Thank you so much for your service because you guys are really doing a lot. And for some fact, the matter is the fact that you're trying to care for loved ones and your families and trying to avoid burnout is beyond the pale of saying more than just thank you. But anyway, I want to show the story of traveling nurses that a lot of people don't get to see, which is basically all aspects of somebody who travels just to give care to others.
What's up? I've worked most days every week I've been here. It's exhausting. There are no more beds in the rest of the hospital, so there's not really anywhere for patients to move. In short, it's definitely worse here than it was last time. 6 months ago, when we last talked, I really thought things were going in a different direction.
Normal temperature, please proceed.
I did not for a second think I would be here again right now.
Let me see your skills.
My faith keeps me grounded.
Go, go, go.
My family keeps me grounded.
Hi, how are you?
Travel nurses are heroes. You rise to the occasion when it matters most, and that's what we are. That's what travel nurses are. That's what we do.
But can I travel too? You get to come and visit. When
when I'm leaving out again, it's always, well, when will you be back? When should we expect you, kind of thing. See you later. You can tell by, how tight the hugs are. Love you. For traveling nurses, I don't get a chance to be with my family. I don't get a chance to hug my kids or to kiss my husband every day of the week. And so it's a challenge and it's a sacrifice that not everybody is willing to make. It's just that I've been chosen to make it. My name is Decoya Billy. I am a travel nurse.
I'm Bridget Harrigan. I'm 28 years old and I am a travel nurse. You miss out on family things, birthdays, and I've missed Christmas before. There are definitely sacrifices.
New York's first case of coronavirus affected a 39-year-old healthcare worker who had just
World Health Organization now declaring a global pandemic.
I knew I had to go. There was no question about it. They assigned me to Elmhurst Hospital in Queens, New York. The epicenter of the epicenter.
Doctors on the front lines warning hospitals are increasingly overwhelmed.
My first assignment was here in New York. It was scary. You think about the lives lost and, the families that were hurting. You think about your own family. I have Jalen. I have Elijah. And then I have Carrington. He's the oldest of the twins.
She wants to say hi.
And then Kinsley is the youngest, and she's the only girl. I figured, okay, this is serious. It's not going anywhere. I still need to help provide for my family. The twins were about 3 months old. I was pumping because they were premature. My husband, he told me, as long as I have milk, then I am good to go.
When we explained it to the children, we just basically said that mom has a work assignment. She'll be gone for a little bit, but she'll be back.
This is my home for the next month or so. It's got everything I really need. I was only supposed to be there for 4 weeks, and then I ended up extending because it was continuing to get worse. Not too bad, the mask marks today. I was about 2 weeks into my assignment. I started to feel badly. I have a fever now, 100.7. Definitely convinced that I have COVID because what else could it be? Oh, there we go. I got it.
Rise and shine. Today is day 12 of 20-something. I've lost count, and I'm tired. But you push on another day to help those in need.
Every time she returns home, I do find myself having a sigh of relief inside, knowing that she's safe.
Getting to spend that quality time with my family definitely makes it harder to leave.
Six months ago, when we last talked, I took an assignment in Guam, which was amazing, and I was there until the end of May. Came back home to Texas, and then the pandemic revved up again for the next surge, and now I'm in the Woodlands, Texas. It is insane here. What I've seen is that every single patient, aside from one that's come through the ICU in the last 4 to 5 weeks, has been unvaccinated. I'm actually kind of renewed in my sense of being a nurse. I'm feeling again what I used to always feel about being in the right place and doing the right thing.
Sun's out, it's beautiful out, it's time to get ready.
The CDC says that you're to isolate for 10 days. We see on average about 350 patients a day.
Let's confirm your name and date of birth, please.
6 months ago, patients were rushing in to get tested because of the unknown. Now patients are rushing in to get tested because it's a necessity. The babies were crawling. They're now full on running, climbing. Yay! Resilience is major for travel nurses. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it to be a travel nurse.
I've been absolutely amazed by the people I've met. All of these other nurses are my heroes. I don't believe that we could get through this at all without them.
And just wanted to give them props for that because, like I said before, the fact that one thing to be a doctor, it's a whole other thing to be a nurse. So definitely shout out to all the nurses out there because you guys should give them a lot more. But then again, I'm hoping that, that's going to form student loans. That being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. I do thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know that I was recorded, because yes, this is recorded, just because, jobs change and that kind of messes my schedule a little bit. So I didn't get to go as live as much as I wanted to, but hey, we'll make it work. With that being said, I do want to do some shameless plugging. I do want to talk about my buddy, Big BZA Dot, which usually you can find him on his Facebook page at Big Dot or Big BZA Dot everywhere else, as he has a smoking trailer Sundays every Sunday from 6:30 to 9. And of course, his REF podcast, like American Funny Home Videos, he's done by WorldStar every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. He also does his gaming channel, Making Plays. So if you want to know when he goes live, definitely check him out. Avon Westwood on Facebook or Big BZA Dot on all socials. Of course, my buddies out there, Ari and Geeks Vent Geek Salad on Facebook and YouTube, definitely give them a like and a share because those guys are, I'm surprised, they actually, because it's Wednesday, they should actually have a new drop today on YouTube, if memory serves me right. But definitely check them out, Ari and Geek Present Geek Salad there. And also, like I said, for guys like me, the link at the bottom, you copy and paste that into your browser, takes my link tree for all of my Facebook and YouTube groups, for all my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and Off Limits Podcast. I do apologize, kind of been also doing Off Limits Podcast. We will definitely get back on track with that very shortly. So again, apologies for that, but we will get back on track with it. Aside from that, guys, like I said, scheduling still hasn't changed. We're still doing it every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So definitely check us out there. And also, if you like what you see, please let us know. If you don't like what you see, let us know. We're just trying to make this podcast better for everybody to enjoy, because we're all about informing and moving forward and being progressive, and that's what this whole podcast is about. Also, before I do get out of here, guys, please, if you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you are vaccinated, please be safe. Please wear a mask. Please do social distancing. Please, if you feel a little bit of a tickle, please do not dismiss that. That could be something more. That could be something more. So always take the time, because right now it's not all about you. It's about thinking of others. When we protect ourselves, we protect each other, and that's how we're going to get back to some sense of normal. That being said, guys, last thing to say about How the Frack We Got Here is all about staying informed. We are not trying to change minds, persuade people. We are simply trying to do what news stations have always do: give you all the facts, allow you to make up your mind for yourself. We do a lot better as a society when we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of the past and try to do things that should have been done a long time ago. Like our first Madam Vice President, who is black. I'm still hoping for Michelle Obama in 2024 to bring her husband along as Supreme Court Justice. That being said, guys, thank you all for watching. If you watch this on playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know your thoughts on everything we covered so far. And if there's stories out there that you want us to cover, or just things that we want us to be investigating or looking into, please let me know. Definitely at How the Frack We Got Here on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you all. Thank you for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and we will get through this. Peace.